What's going on, guys? It is MurderInc here, and today we're going to be talking about Vlad. Vlad is the new fragment fusion just announced for the Halloween event and holiday coming up here. So let's go ahead, get ready for a daily dose of copium, and get into this champion. Now, as we can see, we have this chiseled jawline, very pale figure, a warrior Dracula indeed. But I wanted to go over his kit. I waited a little bit before releasing this video because I wanted to fully digest the kit. Of course, I will have access to the test server where I'm going to test this guy out, but let's see how good he is on first glance. So the first thing we want to do is let's just think back before we go over these skills to Halloween fusions. What if they've been in the past? They've been pretty strong, so there was a lot of hope coming into this. We do have this champion coming out as a Void legendary champion, which is nice. We rarely have Void fragment fusions available to us. Undead Hordes, already a faction that's kind of overloaded with legendaries, but it is what it is. It does fit the lore of Halloween, and I suppose where this champion would fit. And on top of that, he is an attack type champion. So with that being said, let's go ahead, dive into this kit right here. We have an A1, decreases target's max HP by 30% of the damage. Okay, nothing too crazy. Also heals this champion by 30%, kind of like lifesteal, not a huge deal here. Moving on to the A2, Exsanguinate, attacks all enemies, 75% chance. Definitely when it's booked, it's going to be 100% chance, I would hope at least, of placing a leech debuff for 2 turns. Also has a 75% chance, once again, if you book this guy, I'm pretty sure it's going to go to 100, of stealing 50% of the turn meter from champions from the Bannerlord, Sacred Order, and High Elf factions. Now, we have seen similar faction-based mechanics like this from champions like Cardio, but it is kind of cool to see this. I don't think they applied it the best they could have, but it is what it is. The next part of this has a 75% chance of decreasing the turn meter by 50% instead against targets not from those factions we just talked about. So overall, this is kind of cool. 50% turn meter, depending on how many champions you have of those specific factions. This is pretty much get an extra turn, so not too much to complain about as far as that goes. Let's move on to the A3, Mind Shroud. Attacks one enemy 2 times. First hit having a 75% chance of placing defense down. The second hit, 75% chance of placing block active skill debuff for 2 turns. If both debuffs are placed, places a perfect veil buff on this champion for 2 turns. Now, so far, gotta be honest, this does not sound like a Void legendary kit, but there's still hope. Let's go over the passive here. A4, Notorious, places Revive on Death buff on this champion for 2 turns every time this champion kills an enemy. Also fully heals this champion and fills their turn meter by 50% every time they kill an enemy. Will only heal and fill the champion's turn meter, referring to the second part of this, when Konstantin the Dayborn is on the same team. So unfortunately, I don't like this for quite a few reasons. First of all, this is going to be a partner bonus, so he's going to be in conjunction with this champion just mentioned here, Konstantin the Dayborn. So there is going to be some type of pay to win aspect because, of course, as we just mentioned, this is a fragment fusion. Konstantin isn't going to be anywhere part of this fusion here, so you're going to have to pay or get very lucky and pull Konstantin the Dayborn to get the full effect of this. And honestly, this is one of the better parts of the kit, fully healing and increasing the turn meter by 50% every time Vlad does in fact kill an enemy. So with that being said, initial thoughts, once again, I think it's rather underwhelming for a Void legendary. It doesn't really fit from any of the past Void legendaries we have had, being Sir Nicholas, Torment, and I believe that is it. I could be forgetting something, let me know in the comments below if I did. But really quickly going over this, you can definitely use this champion. From what I've read on this kit, the first thing that jumped out to me is, if you're struggling in Undead Faction Wars, no brainer, throw this guy into a stun set, he's going to do just fine. There are a few conflicting things with this kit that I did want to talk about very quickly. Let's say, for example, I haven't tested this guy yet in the test server, but let's just say this guy has insane multipliers. He's doing a ton of damage. His A2 Exsanguinate is one-shotting everybody. Okay, so he's going to essentially get an extra turn from this if he's stealing the turn meter. Or let's just say we have Konstantin, he gets an extra turn here. This, for some reason, conflicts with his normal passive of placing Revive on Death, because he's going to get the buff for 2 turns, but once he gets the extra turn, it goes down to 1 turn. And if he just keeps cycling this, I guess there's no cooldown, so it could be a good thing, but it just seems a little counterproductive to give yourself yourself a buff than to instantly burn one charge of that buff because you're getting an extra turn based on the rest of his kit. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I think they probably should have made it a 3-turn cooldown. That would kind of fit the aesthetic of a Void Legendary much more. So that's kind of my take on that. As far as the A3 goes, in my opinion, I'm sure you guys would agree this should be an AoE ability. I don't think he would be broken if this was an AoE ability. Block active skills, decrease defense, very strong. The fact that it's single target, attacks one enemy 2 times, I don't know. Yes, clan boss, you have a defense down. You have a leech champion, you don't need lifesteal. If you don't have a counterattack, it might be a little bit risky just banking on that A1 and any leech heals from this guy, but we haven't been able to test this. We are simply reading his kit out loud, so it is a bit too early to judge. I do look forward to testing this guy by himself and with Konstantin, but like I said, you should never have an important fusion such as this one. I do say important because anytime you have a Void Legendary introduced into a fragment fusion, you know it's kind of a big deal and a big event here. So I do think they approach this a little bit strange, and I'm going to have separate thoughts on this in a video probably coming right after this one about one of my worst fears that I think is coming to fruition here. So make sure you subscribe, like this video, make sure you're waiting for that video because I think all of you need to know this based on a pattern I have been seeing. I did mention it previously, but I don't want to get too much into it now because that's a whole separate topic. I don't want to waste too much time because now we're talking about Vlad. So as I said before, the main key takeaway here is we don't know how hard he hits. Now, in my opinion, that's a very terrible thing to say. This is the saving grace for the champion. The kit of a Void Legendary should feel very good baseline, and the fact that it's 75%, you will need to add books to this champion to get full value. We don't know how many books. With the track record of plarium and recent legendaries, it's more likely than not going to be a ton of books. I would love to be happily surprised and have this be another 6-book champion. That would definitely increase his value. Not enough to be up to my personal standards is what I think the community deserves as a Void Legendary, but it would be a step in the right direction for sure. Now, like I said, if they make this guy hit extremely hard, we could see some nuke potential here. He is Void, he has no weak affinities here, he has strong synergy, or I guess anti-synergy with Bannerlord, Sacred Order, and High Elf, meaning he penalizes them if they're on the team. So that's definitely good. That opens up quite a few things for the arena. If you do want this champion and you're in the early and mid game, you're willing to spend, or you for some reason have saved up all of these resources. If you have, I'm definitely proud of you because it's very hard in this game to save up resources for a time like this, especially if you're new and you don't really understand the fundamentals of the game just yet. So major props to you if you were able to save resources and you are looking at this champion very closely as I am. So with that being said, yes, he can be a one-shot champion. Yes, he will get an extra turn. However, what comes after that extra turn from the A2 Exsanguinate? Now, the initial thought for me is, okay, we can use reflex gear, we can use the refreshed accessories to get that A2 up and running again. Hopefully it goes down to a 3-turn cooldown. This champion could actually be really good if they reduce the cooldown to 2 turns once you fully book this champion. That would pretty much make him a kind of like a machine gun, just shooting out that A2 over and over again, filling his turn meter, being able to get the extra turn, recycling that A2. He could do tons and tons of damage. However, I really don't think that's going to be the case. And one major point that you're going to know if you're end game or if you're late game, it's unlikely this guy's going to be able to one-shot anything in like Doom Tower or really tough content for the players who would be considering this guy as a one-shot champion. But if you're early game, mid game, even late game for arena, this could be a viable option if his A2 multiplier is extremely high. So to kind of close up my final thoughts on this champion, is it going to be worth it for you guys to pursue? Like I said, never base anything off of reading the kit. Wait for the testing to be done. You can start preparing as if you were going to go for this champion, but don't make any hasty decisions. Don't start buying packs randomly saying, okay, I'm going to use it for this fusion. If you do, keep in mind there's going to be a Christmas time event fusion as well, which is normally very strong. I'm not really sure where the Christmas time holiday fusion is going to stand. Now that we have a Void Legendary as this fusion, I would kind of be shocked if they did a double Void Legendary back to back, but you never know, Plarium could surprise us as long as the kit doesn't seem as underwhelming as it currently is from this champion Vlad. So with that being said, the only real final thoughts I do have on this champion is going to be Konstantin the Dayborn. he is more likely than not going to be non-void, because most partners, actually I think every single partner in this game, is one void champion and one normal affinity champion. I do not believe there are any double void champion partner bonuses currently in this game. Now of course there are multiple non-void partner duos in this game, but with the information we do have on the history of partner bonuses, I do believe Konstantin is going to be some type of affinity champion. But back to my earlier point, kind of a pay to win champion. I would assume this is going to be a legendary. I could be happily surprised and this could be an epic champion, which would be much better. However, still pay to win nonetheless, unless they have some type of guaranteed event. That's just me speculating. I really don't think they're going to do that. And it's going to be interesting to see what his partner bonus is. Hopefully he isn't the stronger of the two. I think that would be a terrible mistake for the company if they did make Konstantin the Dayborn stronger than Vlad the Nightborn, since one's available to everybody and one's clearly a pay-to-win condition. Alright guys, that's my first take. What are your thoughts? Where are you planning on using this guy? Based on reading the kit, like I said, I will be testing this guy and his Konstantin the Dayborn partner on the test server. I'll get the full rundowns and testing out to you guys so you can see the full potential, the kind of mid-tier potential where I think he shines. Maybe it'll drive some conversation and ideas for you guys to see where you want to use him. But as far as initial first look, what do you guys think? Are you happy with this? Are you not as impressed with this? I really don't like jumping to conclusions. However, I kind of have to in this case because it is void. If it wasn't void, I definitely wouldn't be as critical of this champion. But void legendary is very hard to get for sure, and a lot of players are going to see that it's void and they're gonna simply go for this champion, possibly wasting resources if this guy isn't the perfect fit for them. So as I mentioned before, make sure you're looking for that next video. I think there's going to be a really important point that I do want to kind of strike home with you guys if you haven't realized it already. So as always, if you enjoy this content, don't forget to subscribe, like the video, turn on the notification bell so you don't miss my next upload, and I will see you all in the next video.